All right, back to the challenges that we've been facing with the Super Duty here in this 5.4. Previous video, we got the coil bolts out, coils. Obviously, we've been doing some disassembly here, but our next challenge is going to be that bolt on top of the intake there and then getting the intake itself off. Let's do it. Okay, well, as I previously stated, we can't get the intake off with this bracket on here, so trying to come up with a couple of creative ways to hold on to this. Seemed like that was the ticket. A lot better than breaking the manifold, so that works for me. Today is Tuesday. Yeah. These things take a little while, but patience. As they say, patience is a virtue. Okay, so now we have some intake bolts, and then depending on how, if this has been off before, kind of depends on how the wires were routed. When they routed wires for assembly, disassembly, or the vehicle itself. Ooh. I say these things shouldn't be breaking off, but they're just cracking loose a little bit hard, that's all. They're put together a little bit differently when these don't have the intake manifold runner controls like a 543 valve would have, so you don't have to worry about the linkage that's on the back of the intake. We also are going to have our challenges with the fuel lines here. Before we get too far with taking all these bolts out, we will be addressing that issue and see what we can do about that. Okay. Hill hernia is kind of bugging the feather today, but it's all right. Let's see if we can do something with these fuel lines. A few more of these things out of the way. I'm going to have to get that loose down there as well, so that way I'll be able to swing the EGR tube out of the way, or take it completely off depending on how it wants to come loose. That way the valve cover can be removed to get the timing cover off. And we're targeting this cylinder head and the oil leak that comes from it, so let's get some more tools. Let's see if we can bugger turn. Had that not been replaced, most of the time I end up taking a Sawzall and nipping it off at the ends and having to put a new EGR tube on it. Okay, for fuel line disconnect, I'm going to use these. You can buy them at your parts store. AC fuel line disconnect tools. These are the style that you're going to need for this. We're also going to use a little Freol in there. Mostly because of the alcohol content, and it's a very thin fluid. We're going to use that to get in there and start clean, more as a cleaner than anything. And start using some compressed air, blow gun, and try to clean these retainers out. Get that grime built up in there over the years. And you pretty much need to expand that entire spring to get it to come up over the collar that's on it. So as we get in here, do I have a trouble light here? Why do I not have a trouble light here? Probably because I left them both over there. I'm going to start by trying to free that spring up with a pick. Because, so these are, that collar, that edge is what's going to go in and push open the spring up. There's going to be too much force to try to get that to go in there all at one time. So we got to go around and try to free the thing up, get the spring moving. The spring's rusted in place. Let's climb out. Climb out, get you a light. Okay. If you can see that little spring in here, that's what I'm trying to loosen up. And all the stuff builds in. This is an open cavity here on top of that, so all the dirt and grime and stuff builds up in there over the years. And that's where that spring needs to expand into to be released. See how you can see how I push some of that back with the pick tool? Yeah, that's what the release tool needs to do. But it needs to do all of it. This thing is so greasy, or I shouldn't say greasy, so grimy and rusted and stuck that it's not even, the spring's not even popping back down. I believe you used to be able to, I'm not positive that you still can, you used to be able to get a kit for these so you can replace the spring inside of them. And then you gotta clean out the inside of that real good. It can be very time consuming and tedious, but these are the challenges you face sometimes these older vehicles. And again, as I stated in a previous video, why many of these shops aren't working on vehicles that are getting to be 10 years and older. All right, so it looks like I got, where's my button here? This larger line on the inside, I got that one freed up. Seems like the spring wants to move. So we'll work that tool in there if you can see how that works. And I have a little bit fancier pair of pliers that had end on it like that. It's made for lines. You don't have to necessarily have one of these. I've done it for, I did it for years with just a regular pair of 45 needle nose. Now this one, camera's a little bit in my way here, so it's kind of a hard example to. Some of these things are a little bit difficult with filming and all that other shit, but I don't mind trying to show you. So that one popped off pretty easy. I probably could have popped it off by hand, but kind of gives you an example. You can get on here, and so now that that one's out of the way, I can get onto this one, and now I can work that line back and forth if I need to, and that kind of stuff. This side over here is still giving me some problems. This one actually, once I got that Freon in there, it actually cleaned that spring up pretty darn nice. So I don't think a kit will be necessary for that. And then you can see the little shoulder right there. That's what that spring clips around, that little shoulder there. And most of this it's stainless steel. Well, it's not true stainless because it's magnetic and it rusts, but it doesn't get as bad. But so now we need to keep working on this line right here and see if we can't. I got about 2/3 of it free, and it's actually stuck back in the housing there. But from right there, right in that area to right over here, it's what I tried to do is take the pick and run along. I'd take the pick and run along this part of the housing to try to free it up. I don't know that you're going to be able to see that real well, even with the light and all that. I don't know if you're going to be able to see what I'm doing actually, but so, and sometimes just taking some Freon, penetrating oil, brake cleaner, whatever, you can see on the bottom there, if you can see how it turns brown and starts running out. Basically, that's what I'm trying to do, is flush all that crap out of there. That's what's keeping that spring from moving back. And then we left the straw behind. Using compressed air kind of cleans it out a little bit. You can see how that spring's getting a lot cleaner in there. Or at least I hope you can see that. I don't know. These are things, until I go back and watch the video, I don't know if you're going to be able to see all my vantage points. It's hard for me to show you the vantage point that I have versus where I can stick the camera and still see what I'm doing. And with all this stuff, it's really hard to actually get you down in there to see. You can see the relief here where that spring has been moved back, and down here maybe where it's still stuck out in the way. And I'm just trying to go through and whatever will move, try to get it to move. I'm starting to be able to move the links, and some of these I've had to go ahead and jerk the spring right out of them. If I can get this fitting to start moving a little bit, that might help too. Kind of free it up on the... We'll just start with these. And just grab this outside of the housing. Yeah, it doesn't even turn on there. It's that stuck, so... More challenges. I'm going to plug away at this and try to be a little bit more effective here, and then I'll bring it back. Okay, so if we can get you focused in here and get you be able to see what I was doing. I was taking my pick tool and going in between each one of the coils on the spring to break it free. And now it appears that I can get, I know this top part I can get all the way around. This bottom part is being a little bit more, the pick tool will go in there, but I'm not sure that plastic release tool is going to go in there quite yet. So we're still flushing with the Freon and compressed air. And now we kind of can alternate back and forth and get into using a larger amount of compressed air, pick tool, Frio, just kind of rinse and repeat until that spring feels like it's going to be free. The bottom is the catch. The bottom of that housing. That's where you're going to have all your sediment drops in right there. If you're not a patient person, rusty vehicles are not a career for you. I can promise you that. So I think we're just about there. We go to the next size smaller release tool. You can see how that's a pretty robust and heavy wall plastic. It's gonna have to it's much larger than the tip of that pick, so if it doesn't fit in there, don't be trying to force it. You just make more problems for yourself. But see, usually giving it a twist as you try to insert it will help. Not always, but yeah, we're not there yet. Keep trying. Okay, so as you can see, it's released far enough that the retainer's not holding it on there any longer, but it's still being the O-rings are still holding it up. And I don't think we did too bad. Doesn't even look like we'll have to replace those retainers. We will give them a good cleaning out with brake cleaner and compressed air. Just flush them out real good and make sure there's not too much residual junk in there. But fuel lines are disconnected. As I said, in this industry, if you're going to work on rusty cars, patience is everything. And if you're going to, this is where, and a lot of these parts are obsolete or becoming obsolete or extremely expensive because they're pricing at them out of the market. Essentially, prices usually get really high before something becomes obsolete, or you're trying to find something from a junkyard. And chances are, if you're finding anything from a junkyard locally in the same condition, it'll be in the same condition that you already have. Oh boy, them bolts are tight. So rather than having that hassle, save your customer a little bit of money in parts and make yourself a little bit of labor. Biggest thing is you can't be afraid to charge for it. If you can show that it needed it, why be afraid? Shouldn't be afraid to charge for it. But don't be afraid to don't be charging for stuff that it didn't need either, or gouging them for it. And granted, I can't film it all because it just doesn't, but you get the idea. Filming takes too much time. But if the customer wants to know, wow, these things are tight. Breakaway on these bolts is impressive. If the customer wants to see, or you want to show your customer, hey, this is why things took a little longer. Then you get out the video camera and do some documenting on it. Away you go. This back bolt is a little bit difficult to get to, so we have to switch up our tactics here. see they got some corrosion going on where they go into the cylinder head, so these are 8mm bolts with this 1/4" ratchet. You can break them if they're rusty, but you're usually going to have to try pretty hard to do it. I wonder if what time nap is coming today. Oh, this is only 10:30. Haha, never mind. Any minute. Two bolts to go here. As I said in a previous video, I've done many of these things under warranty and just out of warranty. That was, 15 years ago or better. And right in that neighborhood, boy, we had if I was putting a new head gasket in, or a new head on it, which many of them we were, between leaking head gaskets, leaking oil, and blowing out spark plugs, many of them we were putting a replacement cylinder head on. I could make serious time on those things. Didn't have the rust on them that these ones do. Didn't, look at that. Told you they'd be here any minute. Okay. Napa was here with my parts delivery for the morning. Put that there. Oh, forget it. There's the last intake bolt. See if this old bugger will come out of there now. Trying to make sure I don't have anything else that's gonna hang me up right out of the gate. Vacuum hose here, electrical there. What are we doing here? There we go. One intake manifold. A little bit of a bonus mouse nest down here in the engine valley. Extra engine insulation. On a 543 valve, you would have a vacuum port there that goes to your brake booster. On the back side, this is the front side of the intake, but on the back side there would be a vacuum port there, and then their intake runner controls and linkages and wires, and it's a lot more complicated. So next step, get these valve covers off, and that looks like it's going to be a chore in itself. So you can see our Lincoln head gasket up there. This one's probably not too far behind. Maybe a good idea to do both. We shall see. Alright, well, next thing is to remove these wire harness retainers. And these ones are good and growed on there because of the rust factor on those studs, so they're good and stuck. I already went ahead and cracked a couple of bolts loose on here because I didn't feel like quite getting out to get a needle nose pliers yet. So we set you down over here. You might be able to see how I do this one. You got to get underneath it, walk it off that stud. You see it pop loose there. All this stuff just takes a little patience. Once that's freed up, I already took the nuts off that hold the term is slipping my brain here. Radio frequency fucking thing. Maybe we throw a little lubricants on that one. She's a little rusty. Oh, there we go. Burn it. That one's gonna be hot. Hot. Let's come out of there. Don't go in there. I said don't go in there. Thank you. Okay, back here. Back at this again. We have our retainer there. We have pop up as well. Alright, now we can get to a lot more of this stuff. A lot easier. Alright, well, on to the next set of challenges here. We got some valve cover bolts that are giving us some serious problems. That one there, the stud on there makes it a little bit more of a challenge. However, we can move that around, so we can, if we have to, we can cut that stud off. To be able to work with it a little bit more, we can take that one and move it to here because that one isn't utilized for anything in this application, so that's okay. This one down here, there isn't much left of that one. I tried a small extractor on there and it doesn't want to budge, so plastic valve cover with a recessed bolt into it. It's going to be some challenges in this as well, so we aren't there yet. Well, as you can see there, I tried grabbing onto this with the vice grips to see if I could get that one to crack loose, and no such luck, so we're on to another plan here. Switch my light to high beam so you can see a little bit better. Try to get in that routine. As well as making videos on a regular basis. But I will tell you this, GoPro does not make me feel like making videos. So what I'm trying to do there is keep the extractor engaged with the fastener, and that seemed to actually do a pretty darn good job. She's come loose, so those little tricks of the trade kind of thing help out a lot for this kind of stuff. once I got the valve cover off, I'll worry about removing that extractor, because right now I don't have a need for it. 2 bolts left, and they are both back here, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to sit there and hopefully be out of my way. No guarantees. So we got that one and that one back there. That one actually doesn't look like it's in too terrible of shape, so we might be able to just utilize our swivel socket and the long extension. What did I do with the long extension? Oh, it's right in front of my face there, guys. Hopefully. Per workshop manual, that may have changed now. You're actually supposed to pull the engines on these. It used to be that way anyway. However, you don't have to do that to do cylinder heads. Okay, we got one left to battle with here. This one's kind of the one that's giving me the big fight on this side. I think I'm going to hop out and grab a 1/4-inch wrench. If I grab a 1/4-inch wrench, I can keep constant tension on that while I'm tapping on it at the same time. And then, but working on this truck is becoming a good exercise program, let me tell you. So we can keep constant tension on it while tapping on it at the same time, and hopefully get this one loose as well. Let's see where you got a good vantage point here. I'm not really sure where that is yet. Give you a vantage point and give me a way to get in there and work on it and do all those things at the same time. Comes a little bit of a trick once in a while. I'm gonna put you beside the light. You can at least see the end of the tool there. I'm not sure you're gonna be able to see everything that's going on. We don't need to hit it a lot. Oh boy. We may have cracked it loose. And as you can see, it wasn't completely biting on that straight, but I don't care. As long as it works. I'm not 100% certain if I can get bolts for these valve covers or not, but it definitely needs them. So we'll be doing some homework there and seeing what's available and what have you for that. Maybe there's some kit available in the aftermarket for them. I'm sure, and I know for a fact I'm not the only one that has these problems, but okay. All the bolts are out of this valve cover. Let's go ahead and get it out of here, shall we? Got yourself the bird's eye view up there. These valve covers are much easier to get off than the 543 valve covers. They come off much nicer. So there's our valve cover off. We're going to set it down here. Just lean it up against the front of the truck, against the front bumper. So that way it's kind of out of my way. So initial look inside the engine. This one's very, very clean. They've done a very good job of doing maintenance on it. So things actually look pretty darn nice in here. On to valve cover number 2. Maybe you can sit there while I work on this one. Okay, those are all moved out of the way. And essentially we just repeat the process that we did on the other side. See what kind of challenges we run into with these bolts. This is why most of the time I'm a hand wrench kind of guy, because power tools are nice and they're quick. Certain applications, in this application, you can make a way bigger mess for yourself in a hurry. Or if you go put a socket on this and spin it, doesn't take too many revolutions and that thing's completely round, and you got some real problems on your hands then. At least in this, in my experience, this is the better way to go. Me personally. You do whatever you want. I don't care. You can wreck whatever you want as long as you're working on your own stuff. I'm not even sure what that was. Weird stuff happens when things are thawing out around here, let me tell you. Once these are loose, we could probably throw a electric ratchet on here, or pneumatic, whichever you whatever tickles your fancy. Okay, now we're into the long extension side of this. A little harder to see. So, I'll get as many of these out as I can. If I start having some problems, I'll bring you back and show you what they are. And I probably didn't even have to bother shutting the camera off. We are into the problems already. If you can see by my light, that bolt, they're all deteriorated. We had some leaking buildup around these things that is going to be problematic for us. We have, to get into this thing, we're going to have to get this inner fender out of here, and somebody has well more than done their fair share of not really installing this correctly. We still have the screws that hold the inner fender in. That bolt is long since gone. The vacuum canister that wasn't sitting in the fender has a bunch of that's professional. Why chase the threads when you can just jam a bolt over the step threads and put the nut on there? And then we got a variety of self-tappers going to hold the mud flap on, that most of which don't go into anything anymore. So this is far from over, folks. It's far from over. Outside socket. Well, the previous inner fender installer did me a couple of favors in the fact that half the hardware doesn't hold this inner fender in anymore. So we're going to see what is involved in getting those off there. Those are another one where on the other side of that you can't heat it up much because it goes into plastic. So it there's no real benefit to it. So we'll see what we can break this time. Okay, I'm going over there to see what these guys are doing, because I don't know what's been falling over, but what are you chickens doing? I don't think it was that. That's been leaning like that for a little while. The exhaust system off that Chrysler. I don't see anything that should be moving around over here, but maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just the wind moving things around. Boy, there ain't much snow left, is there? Whew. I gotta get a lot of things raked out and cleaned up, and we got a lot of yard work to do, a lot of shop work to do. A lot of work to do in general, so. Alright, back to breaking stuff. Here. Watch. I already know that those should be 11mm 7/16. Why? I have no idea, because the only fucking fastener on the vehicle that's that way, but why they're not 6mm? I have no idea. The application must have been used on something else. So that's what the stud should look like. So they must have snapped that one off at some point as well. and then just decided they weren't even putting the third one in. I know who that work was done by, but I'm not going to get into that. Not my deal. And I'll show you when we get to that point. We do the reassembly. We can talk about how to fix that the correct way so that vacuum chamber actually has a little bit of a home to sit in. And that is this vacuum chamber that sits right here. And it's kind of nestled in. It's got a bunch of stuff sitting on top of it. So some of those might come pay us a visit when I pull the fender out, but I don't think they will. But again, I haven't taken too many trucks apart that were this rusted. So we might not have all the support up inside that fender either that's holding all that other stuff up. That could be a factor. I should put my side trays on this one of these days. Okay, I think I got a Phillips screw over here, and that one looks like it's an 8mm. I got the nut driver sitting right here, so let's see if we can unscrew that. Getting the spring pollen runny nose ready. Then we got another one behind that, so yeah, we'll get a Phillips screwdriver here. Chances are we'll need some alternative self-tappers too. I don't know if that's my sign with the GoPro that it just decides it's done, it's time to go to commercial break, or what the problem is there. That is extremely irritating, because if I go put this thing out on a piece of equipment, it might last 30 seconds, it might last the whole time, it might last 5 minutes. It just randomly shuts off whenever it feels like it. The battery's not low, it's at 83%, so these things irritate me. Frustrating. Okay. Our last screw that holds the inner fender in. Get that out of there. There's a zip tie holding the ABS wire on. It's fine. We got rid of that. Luckily it was a light duty one, so I didn't have to get a side cutters. Now we can get this inner fender out of here. We're just gonna leave the rest of this mud flap. Oh, did we self-tapper that too? Oh yeah, sure we did. Why wouldn't we? Where did I put my nut driver? It's over on the toolbox. Oh, time of the year, I gotta sweep the floor again. Hoping to get this thing tore down, drug out of here, and then we can sweep the shop out again. You can see my tracks. That mud collects on your boots. And so somebody rammed had attempted to. They went far enough that it pulled right through the plastic. So never mind that. I'm gonna set you here. Okay, so now if you pull down, push back, and again the everything is a little bit more rusted and flexible, and you want the inner fender to be flexible, not the rest of the vehicle. So that's kind of one of the downfalls here. There isn't much up holding that fender on either, so okay, inner fender's out. This again is why I put these things in the back of the vehicle. So that's a big pile of stuff that would have to be in my shop otherwise. As in the future, as we can get some pallet racking out there, I'd like to have some spots available for that kind of stuff, but that's a story for another time. So now we can see how bad things are. The rear two bolts don't look terrible, but these 2, 3, 4, 3 don't look so great, and they're much easier to work with. Now that we're down here, well, this far one I was able to get out. These 4, not so much. And in this particular application, a 542 valve, these are some of the worst I've ever seen as far as rust and buildup, and just plain gonna be a real pain for me to get out. This being recessed into this plastic makes it a real treat to try to deal with too. They're not a bolt that's on a flush surface, so, and the fact that it's recessed into plastic, composite if you want to be specific, makes it much more challenging, especially as far as welding and any of that goes, because when you try to weld to anything like that, the gases that you emit from heating the plastic completely fucks your weld. So yeah. And also there's about that much room. And this is why, well, this isn't why they tell you to pull the engine, but this is be one of the reasons that lead up to having to pull the engine, to be able to get to some of these things. But we only have those 4 bolts, and hopefully that'll be the end of our challenges. Hopefully.